Alex stood at the edge, astonished by what he saw below. The wreck looked like a corner of hell bubbling up through the snow. Flocks of winged creatures coiled around hollows in a wilted gas bag. Crewmen moved across the great beast's skin, accompanied by bizarre, double snorted, six legged dogs that sniffed and pawed at every bullet hole. The green lights he'd seen from the castle covered the creature. They were crawling like glowing maggots on dead meat. And the stench, rotten eggs and cabbage, and a salty smell disturbingly close to the fish he'd had for dinner. Alec wondered for a moment if the Germans were right after all. These godless beasts were an insult to nature itself. Perhaps a war was worth ridding the world of them. And yet, he couldn't take his eyes from the creature. Even lying wounded, it looked so powerful, more like something from legend than the work of men. Four searchlights glared to life, illuminating on one flank of the creature. Alec could see now why the beast had rolled sideways during the crash. The gondolas hanging from its underside had escaped being flattened against the snow. Steeling himself, he climbed down to the glacier, heading toward the unlit sides of the creature. Only a few men worked there, though the damage looked just as bad. Drawing nearer, Alex stepped lightly, his snowshoes swooshing in the darkness. As he stole down the length of the airship, the green glow seemed to be bleeding out into the ice. Surely the beast was dying. He'd been a fool to think he could help. Perhaps he should just leave the medicine somewhere and slip away. A soft moan came from the shadows. Alex stole closer to the sound, the air growing warm around him. His stomach twisted. This was living heat from the creature's body. Fighting nausea, he went a few steps nearer, trying not to look at the green lights crawling beneath the creature's skin. A young airman lay in the darkness, curled against the beast's flank. His eyes were closed and his nose bloody. Alec crouched beside him. The airman was just a boy with fine features and sandy hair. The collar of his flight suit was caked with blood, and his face looked deadly pale in the soft green light. He had to have been slumped here on the ice for the hours since the crash, the giant creature's warmth keeping him alive. Alec opened one of the medical satchels, fishing through the bottles of smelling salts and rubbing alcohol. He waved the salts under the boy's nose. Barking spiders, the boy croaked in a high voice, his eyes fluttering open. Alec frowned, wondering if he'd heard the words right. "Are you well?" he ventured in English. "A bit scrambled in the attic," the boy said, rubbing his head. He sat up slowly, taking in the scene around them, and his glasses Glassy eyes widened. Blisters! We came down hard, didn't we? The poor beastie looks a bloody wreck. You're rather bloody yourself, Alex said, twisting open the bottle of rubbing alcohol. He dampened the bandage and held it against the boy's face. Ow, stop that! The boy pushed the bandage away and sat up straight. His gaze became clearer. He looked suspiciously at Alex's snowshoes. Who are you anyway? I'm here to help. I live nearby. Up here? In all this barking snow? Yes. Alec cleared his throat, wondering what to say. He'd always been hopeless at any sort of lying, in a village of sorts. The boy narrowed his eyes. Wait a wee minute. You talk like a clanker. Well, I suppose I do. We speak a dialect of German in this part of Switzerland. The boy stared at him another moment, then sighed and rubbed his head. Right. You're a Swiss. The crash must have knocked me silly. For a squeak there, I thought you were one of those bum rags who shot us down. Alec raised an eyebrow and then landed here so I could tend to your bloody nose. I said it was a wee bit daft, the boy said. Yanking the alcohol-soaking bandage from Alec's hand, he pressed it against his nose and winced. But thanks for your trouble. It's lucky you came along, or my bum would have been frostbit to blazes. Alec raised his eyebrow, wondering if the boy always talked this way, or if he was still groggy from the crash. Even bloody and bruised, he had an odd sort of swagger, as if he crash landed in a giant airship every day. Yes, Alex said, a frostbitten bum would have been unfortunate. The boy smiled. Give us a lift, would you? The grasped hands, they grasped hands and pulled each other up. The other boy still unsteady, but then he gained his feet. He bowed triumphantly, pulled off a glove, and held out his hand. Midshipman Dylan Sharp, at your service.